Because if you don't love what you're doing, you will pimp out and sell out your brand to the highest bidder. And you will never see or maximize your fullest God-given potential until you find it within yourself.
Hey, this is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 167 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And today our guest is Ashley Langston, a fashion designer, entrepreneur, and also an active duty captain in the U.S. Army. And I am so excited to talk to Ashley today. You guys will hear all about how we first met. But the thing that I really want you guys to take away from this episode is that you do not necessarily have to have a whole bunch of success stories under your belt and have to be having, $1 million launches in order to be a dream driver. Ashley is somebody who is in the beginning stages of launching her brand. She hasn't been an entrepreneur for that long, and I have just really fell in love with her story, from just being able to juggle being a full-time military officer and also pursuing her creative passions. I feel like there's a lot that we can learn from hearing how Ashley launched Eikeon, which is an exclusive women's and men's bowtie collection. I am really, really inspired by her passion and her commitment to learning how to sew, learning how to set up a business, and just everything else that comes with entrepreneurship. So you guys will get all the details in today's episode. If you are enjoying this episode, please, as always, please screenshot this and share it with a friend. I love it, especially when you guys are sharing on Instagram stories, but you can also share on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever. You can even text the screenshot to somebody you know and instruct them on how they can listen to the episode. We are Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And please make sure that you are using the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well. You can always get show notes from today's episode by logging on to dreamsanddrive.com. And if you want to join our online newsletter, The Keys, and get a weekly email from me, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. I want to give a shout out to 2 people this week who bought some Dreams and Drive gear. Eric and Michelle, thank you guys. I hope you enjoy your t-shirt and your sweatshirt. If you guys want to catch our end of summer sale, we have Dreams and Drive tees, crew neck sweatshirts, and hoodies still on sale. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop. And I'm going to be phasing out this gear. So once this gear is gone, you won't be able to get this specific gear again. So please, please, please make sure you get something now if you want something. All right, let's get straight to the episode. Hey, Ashley. Welcome to this episode of Dreams and Drive.
Hi, Raina. I'm so glad to be here. Super excited for our conversation.
Me too. And we got to tell the listeners before we even get started about how this whole relationship connection all started. So you want to go or I want to go? How you want to do it?
You know what? I'll do it.
Okay.
And then I'll let you kind of put the icing on the cake.
All right.
So I'll never forget, just seeing you in the far distance of what was the Brown Girls Love stage back in January. And I didn't get to meet you personally, but I met your words, and just really having that drive and that focus and your poise I saw from the distance. And I was like, that is somebody I'm going to start listening to. Really, it was just your comment about just staying focused and believing in what people actually say about you that really caused me to listen and take note. And then it was really your first podcast where you were doing it by yourself. So the 16 things that you were like, I want to talk about it. This is my first one by myself, and just really owning it was believing in yourself. And when people tell you you're great, believe it, because you actually are. And that really, for me at that point, because I was still so early on, I hadn't even launched yet. I was still trying to figure out what I was going to call my brand at that point. That for me was really what set the tone. So it was your first episode.
But you sent me the email. That's what it was.
Right. Yes. And so I'm a person that I like to, when people impact me, I feel that they need to know that they're impacting people, because sometimes we can be in a place where we're just head down tunnel vision and we don't know we're actually making the impact that we desire to make. And I'm always that type of person. So I felt like it was imperative for me to do my due diligence to let you know that that episode really put me in drive, set me on the right course to just commit to it and let everything, all the thoughts on all the insecurity, all the what ifs just go out the window and go for it.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I think the thing that I remember the most was you sending me that heartfelt email, and it would just really touch me so much. And I was like, you know what? I was on my way to work. I'm like, let me just call her. I think you had your number in your signature. And I was just like, let me just call her, because I just felt like responding via email wouldn't have been the right thing to do. And I remember calling you, it was like probably like 9:00 in the morning or something. Yes. And we had like a conversation for about 15 minutes, and it just felt so good, right? It just felt so good. Yes. And I know you were so surprised, like, what, you called me? I was like, yeah, I'm lazy. I don't want to write.
Starstruck for real. So starstruck, but yet it was so personal and relatable to have someone, call you and really feel it not robbery. Because the funny thing is I was at my 9 to 5 when you called in the Army, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's like really calling me, and I'm not trying to be like loud in the office, so try to be quiet and just enjoy that moment for someone to just be so transparent and so grateful to have that feedback. And that's really too, like, I was just sending you the email, not expecting a response. And I think that your response really showed me, just as a person going into business, how I would want to treat people who interact with me too. So it was twofold.
Yeah. And like you said, I think it's important to tell people how they impact us. And then I also think it's important to respond to that impact and to show, as you said, in business, you have to care about the relationships and nurture it. And something just told me, like, nurture this relationship. And then we'll talk about it later, your brand launch party and all that stuff. But let's go to the beginning of the interviews. Ashley, you know how they start. I like to go back in time. So tell me, like, what was inspiring you as a child? Like, what was the young Ashley thinking about? What were you like?
I have not known fear in its natural form. Even as a child, I believed in the opportunity and potential. So I'm using probably unchildlike words, but in that sense, there was nothing that I could not do. I was doing everything. At one point, my mother would tell you, I wanted to be a firefighter. I wanted to be a ballerina. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to do it all. I wanted to be outside playing in the dirt. I was climbing rocks, playing with little garden snakes. So Ashley, as a child, was just very ambitious, to the sense of whatever I could think of, that's what I was going to do. And I was going to try it all out and just really set my mind to embracing everything. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to get my hands wet, and I was not afraid to just test things out, just really go for it. So I would say that the biggest thing was that seed of ambition that was growing in me, because I was like, okay, I can do that, and I can do that, and I'm gonna bring my friends with me to do that too, and all those sort of things. And so that's really, as a young child, my mom would always tell me this story, and she's like, I actually had to put you to bed because you were just asking all these questions about how this, and I had to like make you go to sleep so you would stop asking, because I was very inquisitive too. I wanted to know how things worked. I wanted to know how to do certain things. And as a young child, safety is definitely something we would like to have too as well. But even in early stories that my mom would tell me, just that I just wanted to do it all. My mother was definitely inspiring me. Growing up for the younger part of my life in a single parent household, my mom was the epitome of that strong Black woman. She did it. Still traveling, still jet setting. And when we kind of talk about the brand, she actually gave me my inspiration through conversation for what I do now. And so really her through allowing me to be free in whatever it was that I wanted to do, really was allowing me to kind of explore that side of inspiration. So it was not necessarily one thing, but a series of events and opportunities.
What do you think was the dream for you, like going into college and post-college?
I just knew that I didn't care about school, right? Even though I graduated at the top of my class in high school and all that sort of thing. But my thing was I wanted to jump out of perfectly good airplanes, and I didn't care how I did it.
Wait, what? You want to be a skydiver?
So yes, skydiver. But because me and my parents at that point, my mom remarried my papa, and so we're talking about college and what we're going to do. So ROTC was a natural route for me to pay for school, not necessarily going in on a scholarship or anything like that. But I just knew that I wanted to be airborne. I had 2 uncles that were airborne. They jumped out of airplanes in the military. So I just knew that I wanted to do that. And if school was the way to get there, that's how I was going to get there. In that process, I saw my mom. It was almost like I got it through osmosis because she's a senior pension analyst. She's now retired, but business administration was that thing that I just could do well. Mm-hmm. And I knew that, okay, as long as I got to jump out of airplanes and I'm going to check this block in the degree of having something to fall back on, that's what I'm going to do. So going into college, that's really where my mindset was at. Okay, I'm doing this out of formality, but I'm trying to get to that daredevil side of me that is jumping, being in the military, doing that sort of thing. So going into like my freshman year, sophomore year, that's what I was truly thinking about.
Why the decision to enter the military then?
Sophomore year in college, my first semester, I got out there, was in the woods for 14 days, no lie, no shower, just out there learning my skills, being with the other students, cadets. We were all working towards a common goal and a mission. And it was really that thing inside of me to serve that started brewing up in me. And I said, well, this is the opportunity to serve my country, and this is how I would like to do it. And it's very important to know, too, as well, is that during that time, we're almost 4 to 5 years post 9/11. So a terrorist attack, and then to be in that training environment and learning how to assess things and really grow in our leadership capability and development. I said, there's no other place that I would rather be. And funny thing, I competed for an Army scholarship without my parents knowing.
Wow. And they weren't Army veterans, right?
No, they weren't. And so that year, so sophomore year, 2006, I think. Yeah, 2006. I competed for my 2-year Army scholarship, which actually put me on the glide path to go into the Army post graduation. And I come home and tell my mother, Mom, you don't have to pay for school anymore. And she's like, what did you do? And I said, I just competed for a scholarship. She was like, okay, because I went to a private school, and we know private institutions tend to be very expensive. And my parents were well off to say that price or money wasn't necessarily a hindrance for me. I could pick wherever I wanted to go. And that wasn't a problem. So to actually give back to my parents in that magnitude was definitely a big deal for me too as well. And my mom was happy for me too, because she knew that I was doing something that was true to me and true to my heart, which was to serve in a capacity that just spreads beyond just a simple community. It goes to a nation and a country that we, love.
You know what's so interesting about your story? I feel like we don't often hear from Black female military officers. You know what I mean? I feel like I know they exist, but I know we were talking offline. Like you said, there's not that many of you, right?
It's not. It's very hard. So in comparison to my male counterpart, regardless of race, right? Mm-hmm. The women population is still very small. Now, if I took that out and just went to minority, so minority to include Black and brown, Still very small. And then to just include only African American, still very small. You can literally, like even right now, in my whole section, I'm the only, as far as the military personnel, I'm the only African American officer, but the network is still there, and we know. And then the thing about it is, we know where we are at, and we always check in with each other. But it's still very small, even though we've come leaps and bounds. But the Army is so big too, as well. To get all of us in one place, it would be terribly hard to do that. But it's definitely one of those things that you have to be deliberate about the relationship, especially when you're looking for someone that looks like you. Because just in the regular society, in the military, representation matters too as well. And that's not only in race, gender, as well as just people of like mind that are doing the same thing. And that's something that the military has taught me, that my mentor doesn't exactly have to look like me. And I think that's also in my brand, part of the message that I have in that too, is that it's very inclusive, but also finding strength within your own background as well.
So what branch of the Army are you in?
So my branch in the Army is the Adjutant General's Corps, which translates to Human Resources Officer. So I focus on personnel. So it's the equivalent of HR in the civilian sector. I just do HR for the Army.
So throughout your years, you're still an active duty officer, right?
Yes, and that's my 9 to 5.
Okay. What do you think were like the biggest lessons you've learned just about yourself and just about, this is pre-entrepreneurship, about like what kind of skill sets you were gaining expertise in?
So the military has this way of causing you to go through a certain level of trial and error.
Okay.
And what you would almost feel like to a certain extent is an incubator, but an incubator on like 5, to where they train you how to do your specific job. And then they place you in these jobs to able to further your skills. So from the start of me coming into the military as a second lieutenant, 22 years old, 15 days after I graduated from college, I was in the military on my way to my first duty station, which was in Fort Lewis, Washington, probably about an hour and a half outside of Seattle. And that's where I began to lead. Physically, literally, in every sense of that, I was a leader, because now I had the rank on my chest and I was working in that capacity. But before I actually went to training, so once I actually got into my training for my branch, which is AG for short, so Adjutant General for short, really begin to mold those skills. But they put you in these environments where it forces you to either sink or swim. So it's really that militant and strategic, and in the development, it's processed like that. So you have to begin to, okay, I need to be able to do this, and this. This is how I strategically think, and this is my decision-making process. So they put you in certain situations to be able to mold that and groom that in you. So for me, learning that, I found so much strength within myself of untapped capability.
Talk about that. We have a lot of that. A lot of us don't even know what we're capable of, right?
Right. Absolutely. And so going through those tests naturally showed me that I'm very compassionate, yet stern. I'm very goal-oriented and matter of fact, but to the extent that I have always had clear vision and concept. So when you come to me, I'm going to tell you what the end state is, and then I'll work with you through the process as far as the details in between. But that's also for me, what I found as, I would say, a less of a strength, because I don't believe that we actually all have weaknesses. I just believe that there's certain things are not as groomed in us as other areas are. That's on us. But for me, I looked at some of the details as, okay, if I know I can do a concept and a vision off the top of my head, I have to have good and great people around me, which is my team or my tribe, that is beyond proficient in what they do because they provide the details for me. I am truly a leader, an executive. I can make tough decisions. I'm the one you call in the clutch. Like, if you need something right then and there, I perform magnificently under pressure. That is hands down, if I had to wrap all that up in one thing, the more pressure applied for me, the better. Like, I'm truly that pressure makes diamonds type of person where the harder it is, the more I thrive in it. The more challenging it is, where I have to force myself to really dig deep, dig inside, and also grow and reflect at the same time. That hands down is what has gotten me to the level of being a captain in the Army, being looked at for major. Like, literally my majors board is meeting right now on this day for my next ranks. And those are the things that I really think that the Army has taught me as far as lessons.
So we talked about this idea of untapped potential, Ashley. What do you think, people who are civilians, people who might not be in, military, how can we start tapping into this idea of our untapped potential? I truly,
because my parents, I definitely look at both sides, not just civilian and military. So what my recommendation would be on that untapped potential is really write out what you already know that you're good at. And there's also a survey, and I'll provide you a link. It's called the VIA Character Strength Survey. Mm-hmm. And what this survey does for you is it lists out your 24 character traits. And this survey allows you to see through 24 traits what your top 5 are and what your bottom 4 are. But this survey is designed to show you what's innate to you. Some people are very compassionate. Some people could care less and they're loners, but it shows you that was really the basis. And once you kind of see what type of person you are, what are innate to you, and this survey has also allowed me to see that even though some of the traits that are like 21 through 24 of this survey, they're not weaknesses. They're just traits that you don't necessarily groom, or they're not your first instinct. Meaning in fight or flight situation, that's not your go-to. Your top 5 are your go-to. If you're in a crunch, if you need an answer and decision now, that's what you're going to go to. So that would be the first recommendation that I would say. 2 is be around people that challenge you. Not in the sense of, they challenge you to necessarily be better or even worse, but they just challenge everything in your core foundation. They cause you to look into your tool bag, your kit bag, rucksack, what we call in the Army, and assess your skills. Meaning, are you really maximizing your fullest potential? And for me, I'm always around other people, whether they're younger or junior to me or older to me, that they cause me to really stand up straight, shoulders back, head forward, and begin to look at certain things. So your relationships in that are very, very key.
That's so important.
Now, right, your relationships, because some people, they'll get with you and they'll allow you to throw the pity party, meaning they'll help you pick out the balloons, the streamers, and the blow toys. But when it comes time to get you out, they can't get you out because they're stuck too. And so for me, I've always had people, okay, I'm going to let you cry, Ashley, but you got about 2 minutes to get it together because we're now on the track to solution. Your people that are around you need to let you get it out, but they're also going to be strong enough, strong-minded, strong in what they do to help you find that solution to get you where you need to be. They're not going to allow you to stay so stuck that you begin to revert. And that's what we have to looking at our relationships. Like, are you causing me to revert every time I have what I call an Ashley moment where I'm in my feelings? You can't. And for me, once you start making me revert, your relationship now goes under the scrutiny of my microscope. And to really say, are you value added or are you taken away from me?
Ooh, girl. Yes.
Right. Because that person has to be, is not only guilty by association, but it's really kind of like this. I'll give this analogy, and I know we're probably harping on this, but it's like a garden. If you are sowing into your garden, if you're putting fertilizer into your garden and you tilted the ground and you done got the right mulch and all this sort of thing, right? And it's summertime and it's time for your garden to grow and to bloom, you notice nothing happened. And then there's a garden right next to you, and that's your friend's garden. So y'all gardening and doing the same thing, but that person is not putting in the time. They're not putting in the effort. They're not doing things to make themselves better. And you're like, well, wait a minute. That garden, the things from their garden are now sliding into yours like a snake, causing all the stuff that you're doing to die because that association is sucking the life out of you. Sucking out your capability because you're looking at them. Well, why ain't they doing all the work? And why aren't they doing all this stuff? And they're just going about it haphazardly. But I guarantee you, and I've seen it personally, the second I changed who my associations were, I begin to thrive because they're thriving. Leaders beget other leaders. Iron sharpens iron. It's just one of those things. It happens. Like, you cannot get around it. Similar to our relationship, we are around each other and we've been thriving. Like, we watch each other, we keep each other accountable. There's no way that I'm going to be able to come to your brand as Dreams and Drives as a podcaster and not have my own stuff together. And that's respecting you as a owner of your own brand and respecting my brand too as well. And I think we kind of lack in that too in some areas on the entrepreneur side.
So let's talk about the entrepreneur side. Perfect segue. So you're an active duty military officer. You're living your life. You're climbing the ranks, right? You're learning so much about yourself. You're traveling, seeing the world. Why fashion design? Why like designing bow ties? How did that come about?
Girl, let me tell you. And I mentioned earlier, my mom told me a story. So early on, probably I was getting ready to graduate college around that time. So about 2007, 2008, my mom told me this story about how she was a young professional and she always wore neckties. So my mom, I'm not going to tell her lovely age, but she was in that era where women were now thriving in the workplace. They were still wearing a lot of tailored suits to where they were trying to minimize their appearance as far as women to get men, their counterparts, to actually respect them in that workspace. And so they would wear neckties to kind of make sure everything was put together, well placed. So I was like, wow, well, where is that equivalent for me now, this millennial growing up, and I want to wear neckwear because I just want something sleek that's different. I've always marched to the beat of my own drum when it came to style and fashion, partly and mainly because of my mother, because she had me in boutiques and stuff like that. So the closest thing that I could get to that was the men's bow tie. The men's tie was a little too much for me. That bow tie, though, will catch somebody's eye. That bow tie turned heads. And so I was like, wait a minute. I'm a woman. I know I have a very good sense of style. Let me start playing with these bow ties and see how that goes. So I started wearing bow ties. I wore my first bow tie actually for Easter Sunday back in 2011. Me and my papa were matching in our seersucker suits. I had on the skirt. He had on the pants.
These weren't ones you made. These are just ones you bought?
Yeah, these were ones that I bought.
Okay.
And during that process, I was just like, I'm purchasing bow ties. So I would go to places like Macy's, Dillard's, which is more of a bigger store down south, Neiman Marcus, those type stores, and also Jose Banks as more gentleman-like stores to kind of get different styles, different colors, stuff that was still feminine and edgy, and that fit my style because I didn't want it to look like a man's thing, even though it was. And so I started, and what caused me to go into fashion to design my own bow ties was I couldn't find what I was looking for. It was a problem. Every time I walked into these stores, I began to find the same stuff, and it started to look like the 4th of July picnic tablecloth. Everything was checkered. It was doing this. It was doing that. It just really wasn't in my style or in my aesthetic. And I was like, well, and here's Ashley being ambitious again. Mm-hmm. Well, I would just make my own bow ties. And then I was like, and this was 3 years ago that I had this initial like, could I do it? Could I not? So I'm at home talking to my mom, and then she starts co-signing it like, yeah, you should do it. And we started brainstorming names and so on and so forth. And the brand name started out being Dotting All the I's. But it was just didn't kind of flow with what the ultimate goal was. So we were playing with it. But what really put the nail in the coffin for me to actually jump and take the leap was when the Army stationed me in New York. And I had moved from Colorado to New York. That was the turning point for me, was that move to New York. Because now I'm in the fashion
capital of the world, right?
Yes, fashion capital of the world. Like, so if you can't do it here, you can't do it anywhere. And so literally, I got stationed in New York 2016. And I started, took a little time to get adjusted, see how far I'm from the, city and that sort of thing. And I started searching for sewing classes because I knew this is going back to my ambition. If I was going to do it, I'm hand making everything. I'm not sending it into a factory. It has to be special. It has to be exclusive, and it has to be personal because I'm a personal person and I like people to feel that way too when they interact with me. Mm-hmm. So I started I found my sewing class. It took me 6 months to get in the class. But I took my first sewing class in January of 2017 at Mood Fabric, right there in the city, down in the garment district. What better place to be? You're an aspiring designer. I took their beginner and intermediate class, and then the rest was history. I learned enough in those classes to give me the basics on how to construct. So from start to finish, never touched a sewing machine.
Before January 2017, never? Not even like when you're little? I used to make pillows when I was younger. So I would get like little pieces of fabric and then sew it up and then stuff it with cotton balls. My mom would get mad at me though. But like, so yes. You never ever touched a sewing machine?
Never ever touched a sewing machine. Never touched a sewing machine. And so you can probably tell how like nervous and excitement, but grassroots and trying to learn and all that sort of thing. So really, hands down, taking an ambitious idea of trying to make something that I just want to wear to learning how to sew. And then I learned how to sew in January of 2017, started going through this, really coming into the fact that I was going to commit to being an entrepreneur. And that was really coming out of those two classes. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So I started out just perfecting my skills by making some minor clutches and stuff like that. And then I started with like going to socials. My first social ever was the empowerment social that is put on by Manifest Yourself.
Kimberly. I love Kimberly.
Yes, Kimberly Brown. And look, I love her. I went to that social arena, no business cards, just stepped out on faith by myself and said, I'm a bow tie designer and that's what I'm going to do. And even then, my brand name still hadn't changed yet. I still was working on a dream. I was like, well, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to just tell everybody and this is what I'm going to do.
Manifestation, right? Putting it out there into the universe.
Yes. And that social for me was the second turning point, I would have to say, in my journey to entrepreneurship. So the move would have been the first one. This is the second one that put me in a room of entrepreneurs that looked like me, that was still doing the entrepreneurship struggle. And it was Miss Beth. She's the interior designer. Her story about her transition from corporate to her into interior design was really also that story that stuck to your ribs. You know, some people got that story that's like, oh, I just really touch you in a special place. Her story for me did that, because I was like, how am I going to balance being in the military, which is a 24/7 job at any point, into having my dream come to fruition? So that was the second thing.
How did you balance that?
The Lord Jesus Christ.
Right?
100%. That would be number one. Number two is, I just loved it that much. It was really, truly a dream, and it was an outlet. Like, I would say even now, as much as I love my brand and want to make money, my thing is, I could not, Raina, I'm so serious. Mm-hmm. If I don't make a dime in this brand, I will continue to produce bow ties, period. Because it's in me. It's what I love to do. I love wearing a bow tie. I love being who I am in every aspect of that. And bow ties help me do that. They just put that little sprinkle on top, that cherry on top for me. And that's how I look at my brand. It's selfless. Mm-hmm. I want women and men to feel that in themselves. And that's really where my brand started to take its real shape. It was being molded at that point, because I had to find it in myself. Like, what is my why? My why is I truly believe that everybody has an genuine, authentic self-image that they express through personal style, because that's what I do. And I happen to do it with bow ties. So as all this process is going on, and here I am now making my bow ties. I actually, through a lot of prayer and really finding myself, was what connected in my heart. Because if you don't love what you're doing, you will pimp out and sell out your brand to the highest bidder. And you will never see or maximize your fullest God-given potential until you find it within yourself. And that will be the number one thing, even too, with civilians and trying to tap into your untapped potential. What is in your heart? What comes naturally to you? Mm-hmm. What wakes you up in the morning and causes you to get up and make your coffee, make your breakfast, and get out the door? That's the thing that's going to help you unlock that golden key and give you that nugget to say, okay, this is why I'm doing it. And you got to want to do it before the money comes in. You got to want to bootstrap it. I've done everything I've done in we'll probably talk about the launch a little bit with no money of my own. So I also have a different perspective of how my corporate job or the military has funded my dream. So I haven't dropped it. I've used that income to support my dream and allow me to have that flexibility in entrepreneurship and maintain my own personal lifestyle too as well. So that's really too kind of molding it and maintaining that.
What challenges did you face early on? Like, what were some of the things that you really struggled with, especially when it comes to like the entrepreneurial and business part of the brand that you were building?
Hands down, Raina, that has been the hardest thing. As creatives, we always have the creative side on lock, and we want to stay in that vein 110% of the time. But I can tell you, get the business. If I don't tell another entrepreneur or anybody else this, get the business side in order. And I'm still working a lot of the kinks out for myself, even though I have a business background. But coming into entrepreneurship,
it's different, right?
Into fashion of all things, I don't have a degree in. So technically, I should be failing right now, but I'm actually not, because I've actually launched a brand and I will release the collection here in the next almost month and a half. But really, hands down, balancing that time. So as you're going into your entrepreneurship really fully committed, treat it like it's a part-time job. Part-time job, maximum 20 hours a week. You begin to divvy up that 20 hours a week and you focus half on the creative side and half on the business. And that way, both the creative and the business, that means the business side is your LLC, is your copyright, is your trademark, is setting up your website, and is reaching out to people that have done it. And your training, keeping your skills proficient. Using that time not only because your creative is going to come, you're inspired in whatever area you're in, but your business will make or break you. Yep. You can look up and somebody has your stuff in their hands because you didn't give enough time. So
what do you mean? Meaning like someone stole the idea from you, or?
Yes. Okay. Stole the idea using your content and not giving you credit for it. And making money off of it. Your idea, they done mass produced it, and now you don't even see a dime of the residual because you didn't have the right intellectual property thing. So your copyright, your trademark, your LLC in place, and oh, by the way, having a lawyer on standby to help you with those things. Because creatives, highest market when your business is not right, some people are starving artists because of that. And that was really for me where I had a controlled growth. So I was deliberate about, okay, I'm going to launch and then I'm going to release. That gives me a chance to really go into it seamlessly and making sure every part of the brand and the process were easy and flowed, because mind you, I'm still maintaining a 9-to-5 and I have no plans or intentions of getting out no time soon. So I had to make sure that balance was done up front. Now, is it hard? 100%, because 5 days out the week, I'm 100% Army. I have 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, to really get things done, and my evenings during the week. But other commitments, church, praise team, all that sort of thing. But the average entrepreneur, they're working in their between week. I only have 2 days to be great, pretty much. I got 2 days to create content, do photo shoots, do socials, meet people, that whole sort of thing. So actually having that balance, and because I love what I do, it's made it a lot easier. So I think that as far as those challenges, it's kind of like you got to know what you're getting into and really love it in the beginning.
So what was your vision, Ashley, for Eikeon?
My vision for Eikeon was really, so Eikeon actually is ancient Greek for image. And that for me was, how can I have this play on words and really talk about someone's image? And the number one thing was, which is my mission statement, is that I truly believe that everyone has a genuine, authentic self-image that they express through personal style. Mm-hmm. How we dress is our representation and our introduction to the world without words. And that is an image. And so for me, I do that through bow ties. And having that accessory accent my day-to-day wardrobe, even to the extent that I'm still in a uniform 5 days a week, but those other 2 days, you will not be able to know that I'm a military officer because I do fashion and I cater to my image in that way. And so for me, Eikeon truly represents those people that truly aesthetically can be growing into themselves or really secure in who they are, but wanted that special touch, because Eikeon is about the special touch. It's exclusivity in everyone's collection. Anytime you have an Eikeon bow tie or do anything with the brand to include working with me. So it's not just the product that I'm producing, it's also the relationship that I provide to you as well as a client or someone that's my friend or a colleague in the industry. Is about that being exclusive. It's about that personal relationship. And every bow tie that we make, whether it's one in the collection or it's something that I did do exclusive where I cut to order, it's made with you in mind. Meaning I care about your authenticity. What are you really giving to the world? Regardless of whether the world accepts it, because that is irrelevant. You got to be authentic. And there's always going to be someone that relates to your authenticity, to your story, to your why, to your struggle, to your mountaintop experience and to your valley experience. And so for me, that was the vision. I need to show people my authenticity. And when I went into the launch in April, that's really was my focus, to bring together a group of women that have inspired me along my journey to entrepreneurship. So out of the 10 women that were present, each one of them represented a stage of where I was at in my entrepreneurship journey. So from the first person that I met that was a designer, that's Michelle of Live in Fashion, to actually, I'm just running off a few people. Nikki of Style Verified. She was one that represented my future. She was the one that I aspired to be, that I saw myself, that I knew I had to level up. If I was going to approach her, if I was coming at her just in conversation, that I had to be at a certain level. And sometimes when you have to look at yourself in the mirror, you have to respect someone else's brand before you even approach them if you expect that respect to your brand. And then you, Raina, our relationship was just lit from the beginning. I was like, I can't do this without her, because I just really respected you, because you are really one of those people that you don't take your voice lightly and you're deliberate about the things that you say. And I really respect people in general who are very deliberate and use their words to impact positivity and change in others. And that's really what I saw in you in that. And then finally, at my launch, I wasn't able to have my parents because my papa was actually sick at the time, but I have 2 older cousins that live up here in Jersey who were my parental proxies, is what I call them. And I had to have them there because you can't launch a brand in that sense and not have your family represented. Your family is always going to be a foundation for you. And that family may not be blood family. It may be a distant cousin. It may be a best friend. Because I know our family units right now in this day and age are different. But that person or those people that represent that solid foundation that will bail you out of jail, that will tell you you're wrong, and also tell you got broccoli in your teeth.
We need those around, right?
Yes. Those people who, regardless, right, wrong, or indifferent, they're going to give you their honest assessment, but they're going to support you whether or not you're great or not. And then even my cousin's feedback was like, Ashley, I didn't have an expectation coming in, but I can tell you I'm leaving thoroughly impressed and excited about what you're getting ready to do.
I felt the same way. I was like, wow, this is so, like, not only was the event put together, you just put so much thought and so much detail. And I think what I love most about just seeing you there was the passion, like everything that our listeners are hearing today. This is the real Ashley. She's not just saying all this stuff just for, just to be on the podcast. This is truly the vision that you embody and the passion. You embody it all, Ashley. And I was inspired then. I was really so inspired. I'm like, damn, I need to get my stuff together too. I need to have me an event and put together people. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful. Yes. Thinking about, so what would you say, like, what stage are you currently at when it comes to Eikeon? Like, what part of the journey are you at right now?
Whew, thank you, Jesus. Pass the lunch, right? Really right now, I would say in that entrepreneurship vein with Eikeon, I am getting ready to release my first collection. It's the Esther collection, which is the women's bow tie collection of Eikeon. I will also release later a men's bow tie collection, but really focusing on the women. This has been the year of the women empowerment, focusing on these powerhouse women in whatever area they're in. So Esther is that collection that I'm getting ready to release. I'm currently in process of that. So developing the website and really putting together a collection that's thoughtful. Because this, for me, puts Ashley in a bow tie. And what I mean by that is my journey to the evolved woman that I am now. Because even though I came into this process with a lot of vision, a lot of concept, very direct, knew what I wanted to do, there was pieces of me that I had to let go. I'm very naturally, because I'm in the military, very starchy. When I came into fashion, I had to loosen it up. Understand that every button on a garment, especially on blazers, does not have to be used. Things can be oversized and still tailored. So I had to learn things about myself that were very foreign. But I really took that process, took it by the horns, and in some tears. Let's be clear. I was doing a little woe is me, why I got to change. But if I truly wanted that authenticity, I had to grow up. Some things you grow out of, not necessarily because you gained weight or anything out like that. You've matured out of it. If you want to be at a different place, you have to mature to that place. And that's really what Esther represents. That strong woman who really had to deny herself in the beginning to become the queen in the end. Sometimes you have to eat beans and rice, oodles and noodles, put the hot sauce on everything because it's a TV dinner so that you can be the queen at the end. And that's really what this collection for me and what I'm getting ready to release. But that's really what that collection represents to me. And this is really that epitome of the inclusive woman, because this collection has a little bit of everything as far as color palette. So it has your nudes for those who, I don't know if I want to wear a bow tie. It's actually nice. It's neat. I would like to try it, but I'm not bold enough to wear color. Then to the other end of the color palette, it has those who are like me. The brighter, the better. So I have some orange, I have some teal, navy, things that are really good for business attire. And then just when we're out on a boat or we're doing a day party, it flows with whatever your style is. And so that's really what this collection for me was about, my evolution into entrepreneurship and just as a woman, that other piece of the story. Sometimes we focus on one area of our story and another area gets neglected. But when we focus on them in tandem, they both thrive and they begin to meld together seamlessly, and you get this amazing product. And so that's really what the Esther collection really represents. That's what's next. Mm-hmm. Still ambitious. So we'll see what else has to come out of this collection too as well.
What are you most nervous about? I know you said that was something like fear was something that you didn't really have as a young child, but like thinking about the release, thinking about getting these into the hands of customers, what's that thing that's keeping you up at night?
Creatively, I definitely think everything there is working solid. Really, there's a place when you begin to release for the first time, and that's really what I would like to kind of harp on. This is the first thing. Like, I don't have a history. I don't have a repertoire, so to speak. This is not my third, fourth collection. So this is my first one. And this really is going to show me how I begin to tailor my product in the future collections. Do I need to adjust my price point? So what's keeping me up is like, how well receptive is it going to be received? And am I going to have to change it a lot to really get what I want out of it? And then on top of that, am I willing to make that change? Because there's certain times where, regardless of what society or the public may say, you have to stay true to who you are. You can't begin to be molded this way and molded that way. Now, some criticism is very good. Like if someone were to tell me, Ashley, well, your bow ties are itchy, I would change my fabric. Oh, your bow ties don't fit for women, your plus size neck. So when a woman is more plus size, their neck shape is a little bit bigger. I factor that in now with an adjustable piece on that tie, but is it enough? So gauging where the wearability of the actual neckwear and going in that, and like what the reception is of going to be on that. So that would be on the creative side. On the business side is, Jesus, you have funded me this far, but can I get this brand out of my pocket? Meaning the brand becomes self-sufficient. It's generating enough income that it at least breaks even in its expenditures and what it's costing me to make it, understanding that this is still my first year. So currently looking at, okay, how do I compete for money? Are there grants? Is there funding? So that would be on the business side, what I'm looking at now, that probably, I give a couple hours a week to setting myself up to be able to fund the brand on its own. My 9-to-5 income has been good, but I have had to tighten my belt and lace up my bootstraps. Mm-hmm. I can't be in Steve Madden getting all the shoes or, having these extravagant trips and everything becomes, business related. What am I doing? And, doing things to maximize where I'm at, all those sort of things. So I've had to restrain myself in some of the luxuries that I was having to be able to do this, which is something that I thoroughly enjoy. But now I wanted to be able to go from the baby stage, which is very needy, to the crawl and then to the walk stage, mm-hmm. where it can kind of go on its own a little bit, but it has to have parameters. So that's really where I'm looking at trying to get Eikeon in the next 6 months to a year.
What's the biggest cost factor for like designing bow ties? Is it the fabric? Is it just the marketing? Like what's that biggest cost factor for you?
For me, I would have to say, number one in any design, especially fashion design, is going to be your fabric. Because your fabric takes your quality and level of the product itself. So if I bought $5 fabric, you would actually be able to tell, because it's not going to give you that quality. It's not going to be soft to the touch. It's just going to be $5 fabric. If I purchased $100 fabric, which is $100 a yard, you're going to be able to tell because it's tightly woven. The quality, when you cut it, it cuts right. There's so many things. So, and that's something that I've learned through this process. So for me, one of the bigger ones would be the fabric choice. And I have very luxury type taste, and that's really where I've catered this brand to as well, for that quality, for that movement, for that flexibility, because the better the quality, the more wear you're going to get out of it. And it's a timeless piece. And that's the other thing about Eikeon. It's timeless. You're going to be able to wear this 15, 20 years from now, and it's still going to be able to look brand new. So the next piece would be the marketing. So because it's fashion design and it's really about product and getting your product out there, is really so the marketing piece. So I really, which is why I did a sit down dinner for my launch, doing a release in a form of a lookbook on my website. Those are the key things that I knew if I wanted to set myself apart, that I had to put my money in, especially in the early stages. You have to decide, one, what is going to make your thing quality. So for me, it's my fabric. For someone else, it may be the canvas that they're painting on, or the paint brushes that they're using, or the publisher, whatever it is that they're doing. What makes your thing quality, not the quantity, quality. The next thing is, how does it get it in front of the right people? And that's where you have to spend your money. And that's where I chose to say, hey, quality in my fabric, quality in my marketing. So my pictures, my photo shoots. So every photo shoot, because of that's where I wanted to be, I hire a hair and makeup artist. Shout out to Autumn Marie of Beautiful Code. That's my makeup artist. But I put her, I always have her on set. I pick specific photographers that I work with that I know their quality. And that's really where, for me, my expense comes the most. And everything else I can leverage between.
So, as you're dream driving, as you're building Eikeon, why, and you mentioned this earlier, like why you said you don't really think that you want to quit the military anytime soon. How do you think people who have these, I don't want to say side hustles or passions, I'll just say passions outside of their career, so to say, how can you be successful in both, right? Like, cause you do seem like you're very engaged and passionate about your military career, but you also love fashion. Like, how do people who are in that same boat, how do they juggle that?
Hands down, you absolutely have to be fulfilled in both. So some are in corporate or they have a 9-to-5 that is not fulfilling them. It's draining the life out of them. I'm not telling them to stay in that. If it's draining you and you look at it as a means to an end for you to get to that place, if you want to stay corporate or stay in the civilian sector in a 9-to-5, that's fueling you, that's giving something back to you. So for me, the military gives me something back in the sense of mentorship. I get the interaction with people. I learn people. I get to do something that's hard. And I thoroughly enjoy it, and I get to have different experiences. So it's adding to me. So that discipline, that attention to detail that I naturally have and have groomed, it continues to keep those skills of mine refined and working properly. My fashion side is my outlet, is my creative piece. So where the Army is not as creative, it is more looks so strategic, concept, things of that nature. My fashion designs allows me to think abstract, allows me to think in a different way. So it balances out. So if you're going to do both, they have to be the night to your day, meaning they balance each other out. So in the morning, I'm going to think, and I know I'm going to have to use my brain. At night, when I come home, I take a little break, do dinner, and I get to go into what is abstract concept. So I take something from vision to making it with my hands. It now becomes something tangible. And so I'm getting both. So the number one thing is that both of your 9-to-5 and your 5-to-9 have to complement each other to the extent they don't have to be the same, but they have to be able to provide you a balance. Now, one is outweighing the other, where you're so tired you can't even muster up the strength to do it, or it's not motivating you, or you're not being fulfilled and it's not value added. Yeah, you might want to cut what we call in the Army, cut sling load, pick something else and start over.
So as we wind down, Ashley, this is something I like to ask a lot of our guests. What keeps you going when you feel like giving up? Because the dream driving road is not always fun. It sometimes fills with tears. Like what's that thing that keeps you motivated?
My number one thing is my faith in God. That keeps me grounded and sound. And anything that I want to accomplish, I seek in prayer first. And then I just go with it with no strings attached. Just go. So, and the second thing that would keep me going is that everything is a stepping stone to a next. This one thing, it might be hard. It might be a minor setback, but it's a set up for a major comeback. So that's really where I look at everything more so in the perspective of the glass half full. that if I'm going through it now, at least I'm handling it now, and I won't have to deal with it later. So that's really those challenges. Okay, handle this one thing, I'm going to handle it, and then we're going to move forward. So really my faith in God and really just to see something to completion is really what continues to drive me, even when I want to give up. Because I be wanting to quit. Because some stuff I be thinking about, and because I'm actually working on a special custom project right now, and I had this bright idea that I was going to make my own stripe. Well, who does that? One. And then I'm going to just think about it all the top of my head. And then now I'm in the midst of cutting that and doing and designing that. And I'm in the middle of it. So too far to turn around, but not close to the finish. And I'm like, hey, really, Ashley? You at this again? But because you're seeing the product of your hands. And I think that that's what keeps me going, because I see the product. I see what my hands are capable of producing. And it gives me a sense of personal fulfillment in that too as well. So that's really, as hard as it is, that seeing the end product really allows me to, okay, I'm going to do this another day. I'm going to live another day to do this.
Let's get to the part of the interview that you have been waiting for.
Yeah,
you have been waiting for
round.
The lightning round. So this part of the interview, I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. And remember, we're sticking with our dreams and drive metaphor. Okay, girl, you got this?
Okay.
You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. The first word is park.
Stuck.
Reverse.
Delayed.
Neutral.
Coasting.
Drive.
Going forward to your dreams.
And I've added this question. I think you're the second person I've asked this. Who's in your passenger seat? You know, along the dream driving journey, who's in your support team?
Whew. Number one is God. Number two is my family, to include my brand manager. And then number three is just the success of the journey.
Okay. And let's get, you can't be a dream driver without your keys. So let me know 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road. What are those keys to success?
One, the key to success, I would say the first thing is your water. What is fueling you? What is keeping you hydrated? What is your why? And love your why. Number 2 would be, what are your tools? Who is around you that is better than you at what you're doing and can provide you that on the spot feedback to be better? And then number 3, what is your vision? We perish for a lack of knowledge, and the people need a vision. So you have to have a vision. If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to drive there? And those would be the 3 things that I would say you need.
I love that. If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to drive there? And I remember that was something that it just triggered a memory in me. Episode 1 guest, David Michael Jones, he mentioned something like that. So maybe, I don't know why, I just thought about that. He also said something like that in that episode as well. I have a random question for you, Ashley, just because I'm interested. How many bow ties do you own? Or do you have in your collection?
Okay, so after number 5, I lost count. So I'm probably in the 25 to 30 as far as purchase, as ones that I've purchased, but I'm well into the 30, 40 when it comes to ones I made for myself.
That's so exciting though. Isn't that fun? Sorry, what were you going to say?
I said, no. I said, now I wear my own brand, so I get to make what I want.
Right? I wish I could sew. I have a sewing machine. I need to start it up and see if I could, you might see me selling Dreams and Drive steering wheel covers coming soon.
Yes. Keep it in focus.
Tell our listeners where they can find you online, where they can check out Eikeon if they want to learn more about the brand.
You can find me if you're trying to just link up with me, to know more about my personal story, you can find me at I am Ashley Langston, one word on Instagram. If you're trying to see what the brand is doing, you'll find it at I am Eikeon. So Eikeon on Instagram. And then if you're looking to purchase and trying to get your bow tie game up, the website I am Eikeon will be up and is up on my link in my bio on my brand page as well.
All right, so that was a wrap for episode 167 with Ashley. I hope you enjoyed hearing her dream driving journey as well as her keys to success. If you love this episode, you guys know what to do. Please make sure that you are sharing this. Remember, you can find us on social. We are Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to screenshot this wherever you're listening to, and if you want to, tweet it to somebody, LinkedIn it to somebody, Facebook it, text it, share it on Instagram stories. I appreciate any share. And I think what Ashley shared about her journey and being in the beginning stages is so important, because not all of us dream drivers are even in drive right now. Some of us are in park, some of us are in reverse, and some of us are in neutral. So I think that it's important for me to start bringing on people who may be very early in their journey, and then we can follow them. I would love to check in with Ashley in a few months to see how Eikeon is developing and how it's growing, and I know that you guys would probably appreciate that as well. If you are not already part of our Facebook group, please come on over and join us. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook, or you can search Dream Driver Mastermind the next time you're logged on. And remember, we're still having a sale on all our Dreams and Drive gear. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop. That's dreamsanddrive.com/shop. And you can also use the code DRIVER for an extra 10% off. All right. So you heard it here. I'm not going to say it anywhere else. If you got to this point of the episode, you guys got a little goodie. And if this is your first time listening, I please invite you to go back and listen to previous episodes. Last week's episode with Kendra James on financing and accounting was phenomenal, and I got a lot of great feedback. So if you're, need some advice on how to get your finances right, how to get your dollars right, make sure to go back and listen to episode 166. I love it when you guys are leaving reviews, and we did get a new review this week, and this one is coming from Erica, Ohio, and her review says, "Great stories. Love the motivation and the stories of success and trials. I just wish the quality of the person being interviewed was better. I listen to a lot of great podcasts, and I know there's a better way out there where the person on the other end of the mic is not breaking up, like the connection is bad, or doesn't sound like they are talking in a tube. Keep going. We love this." So listen, I chose to read this review because I really believe that it's important for me to be transparent and to be honest. And as you guys know, I do not do these interviews in the studio. The studio is my bedroom, and a lot of my guests, or most of my guests, or all of my guests, are doing their interviews via Skype. So everyone's mic setup is a bit different. So I really do appreciate having Erica still say she loves the interviews and give me some constructive criticism and some constructive feedback. I feel like I'm not always perfect, and I know there are some interviews where I'm like, damn, maybe I should have instructed the person to do this with their mic, or maybe I should have tried to tweak out the sound a bit better. But that's just how life is sometimes. But I really do appreciate Erica. Thank you for listening. And I am always welcome to constructive feedback. I feel like sometimes as podcasters, sometimes as creatives, we only want positive stuff all the time, and that's not always the key to growth. So if you guys have any other things you want to send me, don't make them too crazy now, but definitely feel free to leave honest reviews. That's what I love, the honest reviews, honest critiques. So please go into Apple Podcasts, leave a rating, leave a review, and I might just read yours or next week's episode. All right, so last thing I want to say, guys, is remember, we're gearing up for our Driver's Ed series in September, where you're going to have a month long of solo episodes from yes, me, Raina. You're going to hear from me all month, so get ready for that. I know I am super, super excited. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 168. All right, bye, guys.